it's completely fine for Christian Gonzalez and the Patriots not to have Christian Gonzalez practice today, which is why I'm not bothered by this at all, even if it is contract related. You'd be like, you know what? Fine. You've earned it to this point. Take the next day off. The trouble is, we won't know until Saturday whether this is meaningful or not. If he's there Saturday, this is all fine. We have shows to do until then. But if he's not there Saturday, then it's an issue, contract or injury. Okay, so the lead to my story today in the Boston Herald, fresh off of Patriots-Colts joint practice, says, if they were keeping score at practice today, they would have ended somewhere in the neighborhood of a draw. Today, folks, we have only winners and losers. There will be no tie in this podcast with Zack Cox, my guy at the Boston Herald, primarily in the Celtics. You know him from years of covering the Patriots and the beat. We have winners, we have losers, and even though the biggest fight of practice today was not even like a skirmish, it was just nice to be able to tweet out, fight, because that's what joint practices are about, no?
I was waiting for scuffle exclamation point. I like had it ready to go. And as soon as I saw the one fist come out from, I can't even remember the guy's name, number 74 on the Colts. It was a very brief scuffle. It was very minor in terms of what we've seen from training camp joint practices in the past. Wouldn't be surprised if we see something a little bit more significant when the Eagles are here next week. But yeah, it was nice, especially from like the monotony of camp to this point, especially for you guys who are down there every day. You just see a different color. You see something different. It breaks it up a little bit.
So I'll have to wait till next year to tweet this, but the day before joint practices is always are you looking forward to hitting somebody else day where someone always asks a question. It's just tradition. And then you get to that day and you hear, oh, it's really nice to hit somebody else. So that was today. So happy. It was nice to hit somebody else day to all who celebrate here on the Yakety and Yoke CLNS Media Network. Simple pod today. Again, we're going into the joint practice. And for people who don't know, it's Tuesday, 2 days before the preseason opener, when a lot of folks will see the Patriots for the first time. This was practice number 14 for them. So we're really starting to get a good hold on who this team is this summer. That, of course, always changes, and more importantly, into the season. But now we have almost 3 weeks of information. As I always say, the truth is in the trends. And so some of the guys that popped today that we're going to talk about are extensions of those trends that we've seen from other practices. Others were brand new. Like Marcellus Dial was in my 53-man roster projection, and I was really surprised that Mark Daniels isn't still laughing, sitting here in my own office as we recorded that pod a few days ago. He had 2 pass breakups today. And I'll just hit on him first as we do winners, because, look, it's because I trust the audience to hang out longer than me mentioning Marcellus Dial in the first 5 minutes. But it's also to say, like, this is a guy who is in a room where the backup corners had a searing hot spotlight on them today with no Christian Gonzalez, no Carlton Davis, no Charles Woods. So this was your chance. And he was really the only guy to take advantage of the 2 pass breakups. Considering his special teams impact, this is a big day for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially within the context that you just laid out there, because I mean, we can kind of combine this with my number one loser, which is basically every other depth Patriots cornerback in this practice. Because as you mentioned there, no Christian Gonzalez today. First time he has not been out there for a practice this summer. No Carlton Davis. We saw him for a brief period at the start, but he didn't do any of the one-on-ones or the team drills. And same thing with Charles Woods, rather. So that's the Patriots' top 3 outside cornerbacks, all not participating today. A lot of opportunity for someone to claim that 4th roster spot, that 4th spot on that depth chart, which during the season is probably not going to be that important if you're lucky with your health at outside cornerback. But I don't think any of those contenders really acquitted themselves especially well today, especially going up against a Colts receiving core that isn't particularly impressive, especially because Alec Pierce is not yet back from his offseason surgery. So we saw a lot of moving pieces in there. We saw, what was the full list? It was Kindle Vildor, Channing Canada, a lot of all-name team guys in this mix too.
Yeah, right
Vildor, Canada, Kayron Prunty, the rookie, and who am I forgetting? Who was the 4th that was mixing in? Oh, Kobe Minor, the 7th round pick from last year. All of those guys saw work with the first team defense. It's a great opportunity for a player in that position to really kind of show something to the coaching staff, maybe get some additional opportunities down the line. And I don't think any of those players really flashed. It was especially notable in this one red zone 7-on-7 period that me and you were both watching. I believe it was 11 consecutive completions from Daniel Jones and the other Colts quarterbacks, including 6 straight touchdowns before Marcellus Dial had this pretty nice diving pass breakup at the goal line. And then Dial ended up breaking up another pass later in practice. He's more of a slot guy, special teams guy, so he's not in that same mix. But of those sort of roster hopeful cornerbacks, he was really the only one that kind of stood out positively for me today.
Yeah, Vildor gave up 2 catches. Minor had a deep pass interference. Canada had a quiet day, but probably saw the fewest reps on the starting group among all of those guys. I mean, Dial really was a second and third teamer, but the volume of action he saw in addition to special teams, again, to me, shows that they value him in a way that might surprise some folks. I could certainly be completely wrong on that. I think I'm alone. I don't even know if Marcellus Dial gets an island. I think he gets a rock at this point for where I am on that. But the point is, this was a story today because Christian Gonzalez was away, Carlton Davis was away, Charles Woods was away. Okay, what do you got? And you could zoom this out even further of like, and we'll get to the Gonzalez part of this in a second. The defensive depth, I think, was exposed a little bit today. And this is part of the beauty of joint practice is the Patriots themselves find out where they're a little bit softer and where they need to work, because Josh Downs had several catches also against Marcus Jones for a winner against the Patriots starting defense in that 1-minute drill. And look, if you want a full recap of practice, I've already done this, so we're really getting into the nitty-gritty here. But it is something for them to consider, whether it's within contract negotiations with Gonzalez, how they want to play defense, maybe blitz more. What did you make of Gonzalez's absence? Let's do that right now. If you had to guess, just your Zack Cox gut guess, was this more contract related or a little bit banged up from the other day? What do you think?
I would say, I don't have any inside intel on this, but I would say my gut says it's more contract than injury related. I don't know if it was a situation where, because he seemingly did get a little bit banged up right at the end of yesterday's practice, it kind of came up. He came up limping a little bit, or he was just like, looked like he might have been a little it didn't appear serious, according to the people who were down there. But if I'm him, I would not be participating in this practice, especially if it's a situation where you maybe get a tiny little ankle tweak where under normal circumstances, yeah, sure, you're going to be out there the next play, the next day. But I mean, you've gone over this a bunch on this podcast before. He's a guy who got hurt in training camp last year and missed a lot of time going into the regular season. An injury of that same significance that he had last year, I don't think is going to cost him tens of millions of dollars or anything, but he's in a really important spot in his sort of career trajectory just with this contract that is being negotiated right now. And I mean, good on him for participating in training camp to this point. Like, I wouldn't have been stunned if he had done a hold-in type of situation. But I don't think he has a lot to gain from being out there in these practices, and I think he has a lot to lose. So until we hear that, yeah, he wanted to be out there, but he sprained his ankle and he's going to be out for a couple weeks, my gut says it's more contract related than that.
I think you could very well be right. The problem with determining this, again, unless you have any reporting, and I don't have anything here as of 5:01 p.m. on Tuesday, is it's also in the Patriots' best interest right now to probably just keep him off of the field. Like, the hard fall happened. So even if it just makes Christian Gonzalez happier sitting out one practice, you go do it to hopefully smooth any part of the relationship that may or may not need smoothing as it relates to negotiations. Notably, this, of course, also comes the day after not just the fall, but the extension they gave Hunter Henry, which wouldn't rankle me personally, but I'm not Christian Gonzalez. And that really is what they need to focus on, is their relationship and doing whatever they can to get that extension. So whether it's to keep him healthy for week one, to keep him just happy, or to keep him available for more important practices, which frankly are coming up next week against the Eagles. And I cannot believe that day 2 is still on the calendar, knowing we're going to graduate from skirmish to scuffle to potentially brawl on day 1. It's completely fine for Christian Gonzalez and the Patriots not to have Christian Gonzalez practice today, which is why I'm not bothered by this at all, even if it is contract related. You'd be like, you know what? Fine. You've earned it to this point. Take the next day off. The trouble is, We won't know until Saturday whether this is meaningful or not. If he's there Saturday, this is all fine. We have shows to do until then. But if he's not there Saturday, then it's an issue, contract or injury. But right now, it's in both of their best interests for him just to sit this one out.
Yeah, it's not worth the risk. I mean, as much as I'm sure the fans want to be out there seeing him going up against another team in joint practices, it doesn't make sense. And again, it's kind of has to be a wait and see approach for now, because if Saturday does come and he's not out there, it's either some sort of a step back in the negotiations or some sort of injury related situation, neither of which would be very good news for the Patriots.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to some more good news. I saw him make 2 catches. Again, you and I were primarily on defense, but I have been scouring. So all of you fans breaking the rules out there in the stands, I see you. I've seen your work on Twitter. It has been a big help today, as has Doug Hyde, who's not here, but shared his notes on offense. Eli Raritan. This is one of the guys that when I say the truth is in the trends, he is trending upward and has been now for about a week. And not just in a way of like, oh, he had a nice highlight grab. Like N'Keal Harry still somewhere has a picture on a wall in his house of him making a highlight grab at training camp. You know what that does for him now? Nothing. He's not in the NFL. But Eli Raritan is eating into Hunter Henry's first team snaps. That is meaningful to NFL football now and to come. And it's not because Hunter Henry is struggling. Like he had 4 catches on 5 targets. Eli Raritan,
nice one back of the end zone too, a little toe tap one there.
Yes, a big one. Raritan had 4 catches on 4 targets. Now, most of them came from Tommy DeVito, but he is winning in one-on-ones. He is working with Drake May, and he's being trusted in high leverage moments. Today it was a 2-point conversion from DeVito. Yesterday it was 2 targets in a 2-minute drill from Drake May. So I just like what I'm seeing, whether it's the trust from the quarterbacks, the way he's winning at the top of his routes, like the little savvy stuff that's kind of, the below the belt sounds dirty, but, like an elbow down by the waist. It's not going to get called for OPI as much as just a blatant 2-handed shove. When he wins at the top of his route, that's where him as a long strider really helps because he's got the speed to pull away. He just has to get that separation, and lately he is. Yeah,
you see the kind of early stages of like savviness in his game where he's able to make those kind of plays. And I think you mentioned the trend, the trend of his emergence really since the start of training camp has been huge for the Patriots. I mean, just for their outlook on offense, because going into camp, like coming out of the spring, you really had no idea what they were going to do with that number 2 tight end spot. Obviously, Austin Hooper leaves in free agency this offseason. They bring in Julian Hill, supposed to fill that role. He gets hurt pretty much right away. They haven't brought in any veteran kind of replacement, veteran stopgap for him. So they basically entered camp saying, okay, it's Eli Raritan and Tanner Arkin and a handful of other kind of randos that most Patriots fans probably don't know. Most of us media members probably don't really know very well either. And I think Raritan has been great so far in terms of like relative to expectations and relative to experience. He's given them pretty much what you would want to see from a 3rd round rookie tight end who could actually need to play some legitimate snaps and have a legitimate role this season. It's still going to be interesting to see, 1, if he can translate to this to actual games, and 2, just what Josh McDaniels' overall plan for him is. I don't know if it's going to be some sort of, because he's definitely more of the receiving type tight end. Arkin is more of the kind of big body blocker type. I think he's like 265 pounds. So maybe he could fill some of the like extra run blocker role. A lot of questions there still to answer, but the fact that Raritan is regularly appearing in the kind of winners, studs category after so many of these training camp practices is a very positive sign for the Patriots.
Yeah, it's both the volume and then it's the peak of the highlight or the ceiling or his best moment. Like, the old Scott Van Pelt, how good is your good? Like his good has been very good lately. And his only catch today, like you'd like to see him stay on his feet. It was a ball Drake threw a little out in front of him on this big in cut where again, he got separation at the top of the route. He's pulling away and kind of slides as he makes the catch, which actually was very Hunter Henry-esque. Like I don't like the bottom dwellers when it comes to yak or expected yak. Hunter Henry is there hanging out at the bottom. It's not his skill set. Eli Raritan, it should be. So again, you want him to stay on his feet.
And it's just also
go ahead.
When you're evaluating these kind of players in training camp, so much of it is like the context of who they're catching these passes from and the context of who they're playing with. I think that's what sends a lot of people in, like a lot of fans, in the wrong direction with rookies and undrafted types sometimes, when they're like, oh, so-and-so Austin Carr caught like 6 passes in this practice. Like, yeah, all of them were from whoever Danny Etling or whoever the third string quarterback was at the time. Eli Raridan, as you said, is very regularly running with Drake May and that first team offense, and is still delivering the level of production that he has. So again, all very positive signs for him and the Patriots there.
Yeah, it definitely is. And that's tangential to the Kyle Williams conversation, which, I probably mentioned him more in this podcast already than I expected to all summer, but it's to say that like he's repping primarily with Tommy DeVito. It's a crowded room, but even the reps he does get with Drake May, who found Efton Chism, who had 3 catches and 3 targets today on his 1-minute drill, May did with Chism. Like Williams had a great deep ball. Who's throwing that deep ball that he's catching? Because May's thrown a couple that they've not connected. This again was from Tommy DeVito, who's been outstanding. Didn't make my winners list actually, and I'm now reconsidering that. But the point is, like, that context the point you bring up is so critical, because it's not just the stats that you see tweeted out. They have to come with the context. Okay, give me another loser today.
Another loser. All right, so I had the reserve cornerbacks. I had Marcus Jones, just for some of the. He had a pass breakup against Josh Downs, but also was beaten for a slant in the red zone and allowed that touchdown on what I believe was the Colts' final snap
1 second left
of their 1 second left in their 1-minute drill. The other one I'll mention is just the run defense. It's kind of vague, but it's difficult sometimes to really pinpoint where those issues are in a setting like this. But you just saw too many instances of Jonathan Taylor or one of the other Colts running backs just kind of finding a seam and running ahead for 7-8 yards. Colts have a good offensive line. They have a very good running back. The Patriots have some questions. I would say it goes back to the depth issues that you were talking about earlier in their kind of defensive front. Again, I don't like to judge run game and run defense too much in a practice setting anyway, even in a joint practice setting like this, because every play ends before the tackle. So you don't exactly know like what the actual outcome is going to be. But I think the Pats run defense left a little bit to be desired out there today.
I mean, it definitely did, because the flip side of that is the run defense has looked stacked. Like they're playing with a 12th guy at times when it's just going up against, the Patriots offense. And here comes Jonathan Taylor and Quentin Nelson and one of the best run blocking offensive lines. And you're like, oh, the run game can work in the early part of the summer if you just have the right personnel. And granted, there's continuity with scheme and all these different things, and not, second-year linemen, which right now comprise 40% of the Patriots offensive line, meaning Will Campbell and Jared Wilson. But the point is, when you group it as the run defense, I think that's the best way to do it, because if we were just here listing all the defenders who struggled to defend the run today, that would be the whole podcast. Like, it was guys on the edges, even Jerrymon Jones, Braden Swinson, Elijah Ponder, Jesse Luketa, all lost edges. In the middle, I saw Joshua Farmer get washed out twice from the point of attack on an interior gap run, clearing the way for Jonathan Taylor. You had linebackers who couldn't come up and make it fit. And this isn't, again, a 5-alarm fire for the Patriots run defense, but it's easy tape for the staff to point and look and go, we've got work to do. And had this been a real game, the Patriots would have been, in danger of kind of losing control of the clock and then putting more on their offense, which can deliver and did. Like, the offense, I think, won on both sides for both of these teams, and that's why it was a draw today. But in the nitty-gritty, you're absolutely right. Was there anyone who at least stood out in a positive way? Like, I had Robert Spillane for one run stuff, and like Khalil Jacobs flew in, but you wonder if, again, they're not tackling. Like, Jonathan Taylor kind of spun away from him. Anyone positive here?
He wasn't from the front seven, but I liked what I saw from Del Pettis in run defense. I think I had him down for at least 2 run stuffs, 1 or 2 the kind of quality blitzes where he flushed, I believe it was Daniel Jones, out of the pocket. Also had a couple pass breakups earlier in practice in the one-on-ones. We're talking a lot about the kind of like depth level players. But he saw a lot of work with the first team defense as well today in those 3 safety looks. And on a day that wasn't especially great for the Patriots run defense, those louder run stuffs do show up a little bit more. And I thought Pettis had a good day, especially for an undersized guy, not He's not one of those kind of like linebacker sized safeties. I thought he had a solid day today.
He's another one on the rise, and he was my player of the day. Like, he had a pass breakup on one-on-ones. I did have him down for 2 run stuffs. He also had a hurry on a blitz. Like, he's a big, strong, big in terms of like thicker than he is tall. Physical player who's willing to stick his nose in. And I talked to him after, and part of it was actually kind of nice. He's breaking down Raritan versus Hunter Henry, and not because I asked for it, but he's just saying, you guard Raritan, I have to break when he breaks. Like, that athleticism is real, and Henry's got a lot more craft. As we were talking about them, when I talked about his game, that how much of today was just you were near the box where you kind of thrive anyway, because that's where all of those plays happen, the run stuffs, the hurry, aside from the one-on-one pass breakup. And he'll start at some point this year. Like, Kevin Byard or Craig Whitson will probably miss a game. That third safety battle I feel better about. But let's go offense and let's go big picture here, because Drake had a good day, like 15 of 23. He's fine. The interception wasn't great. AJ Brown, 5 catches. I want to see the volume there for him. And when you go down the list, like Demario Douglas, 3 catches, Romeo Doubs had a long catch. The balance and the depth there is kind of just a winner for me, because this was not like, Kayshon Boutte, who had 3 catches on 7 targets, would be in more in the loser category, had a bad day. And there goes our whole passing offense. They have such balance and depth in the passing game that I just put that as a winner, even understanding that aside from Sauce Gardner, like, none of those corners were really scaring you for the Colts.
Yeah, I thought AJ Brown had one of his more active days that I've seen, at least from the practices that I've been at. He obviously had the win against Sauce Gardner on the first rep of one-on-ones that everybody's probably seen on Twitter by now. I think Sauce Gardner was speaking for a lot of us when he said, like, hey, it's one-on-one rep in a joint practice. Like, everybody keep their pants on here.
I mean, it was a good route.
It was a good rep.
We can say that, and Sauce Gardner, after admitting that, which I don't think he did, can be right. But the credit is due where it is due. And it's just funny that guy who leads the production team here at CLNS, Ahmed, shout out for getting that video. It's gone freaking everywhere. I was shocked when I, again, was scouring all these clips and videos.
It had I think it had 1.9 million views when I last saw. So it is literally everywhere. It is very viral. But beyond that one, I believe he had 5 catches in 11 on 11s or in team drills overall. So a productive day for him. But I thought it was notable and speaks to your point about the depth that the 3 completions that Drake May had during his final 1-minute drill before he threw the interception on his last pass, underthrew Demario Douglas on what would have been a touchdown if he had let him a little bit more. His 3 completions in that series were to Demario Douglas, and Efton Chism. So it basically one, those were the players who were on the field with him in that kind of like best on best situation. And 2, Drake May trusts those shifty down the depth chart slot receivers, at least in this kind of situation. And I know we've talked about Kyle Williams during this camp before. It seems like he's going to make the team based on what Mike Vrabel has said about him, but there really does seem to be kind of a dividing line probably right below Chism in terms of what this Patriots receiver hierarchy looks like. It's like AJ Brown, Romeo Doubs, Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas, Mac Hollins, and Efton Chism is like the kind of like core 6 that's always with Drake May, or typically with Drake May. And then there's a pretty solid drop, and then you get to Kyle Williams, then you get to everybody else. But long way of saying, the variability of the passing game today was a plus, I would say.
All right, so football is still more than a month away. But if you plan on winning money while you watch sports, college or pro, come the fall, in the winter, I'm telling you, you got to do what the Patriots are doing right now. You got to stretch, you got to warm up, you got to do the exact things you want to do in the fall. And by that, I mean win money while you watch sports. It could be baseball, it could be the WNBA, it could be golf, it could be tennis, and you can do all of this over at PrizePicks, America's #1 sports pick app. You've heard me talk about this before, whether you like to pick players and they'll have more or less home runs, strikeouts, hits, whatever it might be, or how far they'll get in a particular tournament. You can do this over at PrizePicks, where it is so fast, so easy. I have been doing this literally now
4 years. Spice up a Tuesday Sox game on the road. Boom, no problem. Pull up PrizePicks. Get into a WNBA game when they've given a certain promotion or giveaway. Boom, PrizePicks. We all know what's going to come during football season, but for now, I'm telling you, warm up and find out what's going on. And if you are new to PrizePicks, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $150 instantly in lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Only if you download the app today and use code CLNS to get $150 in lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, America's #1 sports pick app.
Well, and on the Chism point, like they're doing things in these 2-minute drills that I don't think you'll see come the regular season, meaning you start with A.J. Brown, Romeo Doubs, and Pop Douglas. There are 3 snaps, a false start, and then it's a wholesale change at receiver. So you might see a Keishawn Boutte in for Romeo Doubs or A.J. Brown after a big, long play and catch, and they need a breather on the sideline. Cool. You're not also then putting out Matt Collins and Efton Chism, which is what they did with Boutte and took the starting 3 receivers off the field. But even in that grouping, wholesale change. Again, Kyle Williams is just not a part of that group, which now, to me, listening to myself, I feel like I'm picking on him. It just is what it is right now. And that's fine. He's got time. It's really more of a credit, in my opinion, to Chism, who apparently had an outstanding catch on one-on-ones and, again, caught all 3 of his targets. So, like, look, it's just it's a good problem to have, ultimately. Like, before, when the Patriots busted on an Aaron Dobson or your Taylor Prices or all these mid-round picks at receiver, it was a real problem. Right now, most times the 7th receiver in the depth chart doesn't make the team. Anyway, enough about Kyle Williams. What else stood out? What's left on your list?
My other winner that I had down, believe the only one we haven't touched on really yet is Tommy DeVito. Like he had the long bomb to Mac Hollins, a 50-ish yard touchdown. I mean, that play wasn't the most difficult throw. It was just a blatant coverage bust. But going back to the trends again, we've seen that a lot from Tommy DeVito this summer, this camp. He's looked legitimately good as Drake May's backup. He's looked a lot better than I expected he would. Especially with some of these downfield throws and these big plays. He's settled in very well, I think, to this number 2 quarterback role. And talking to him after practice today, it was interesting that he said he basically didn't take his first snap in the Patriots offense until OTAs this spring, which was like 10 months after he joined the team, because he arrived after final cuts last year, was basically immediately scout team quarterback, emergency third quarterback. Those guys don't get any reps during the season. He's finally getting some work in Josh McDaniel's system, and he's playing well. I think he's completing close to 70% of his passes in training camp based on your charting. And he's looked like, basically when you're in training camp, you want to look at your backup quarterback and be like, okay, I like what I'm seeing from that guy. Cool. I don't have to worry about him. And who knows if he'd be able to do that if he was thrust in there in a game. But I think he's inspired a lot of confidence in that role based on what I've seen this summer. And it is an important role. I mean, obviously, if Tommy DeVito has to play any real snaps this season, the Patriots are most likely in trouble if he has to play for any extended period of time.
Okay, well, let's define that, because I have a lot of wild, irresponsible thoughts running through my head as it pertains to Tommy DeVito and the possibilities here. And this is not to be carried away with the winds of summer and change and hype and everything else that's blowing around here. I think if they lost May for like a 4 to 5 week stretch, the trajectory of their season, pending the opponents, of course, doesn't really change a whole lot. And I say that not just because of DeVito's performance this summer, but it's what A.J. Brown and Romeo Doubs are going to do to alleviate pressure on the run game. And what that'll do then, of course, to allow Tommy DeVito not to have to carry the load in the way that we all know by all the yards he generated as a passer and a runner last year. Drake May was carrying the largest load in the NFL. So sure, we could talk about the soft schedule, but the amount that he had to do on a week in and week out basis, given what surrounded him, is so much different, where it's not be a game manager, but it's just find the right mismatch. I think Tommy DeVito can find the right mismatch for a week. Yeah. So all making cutlets, okay? I don't think this guy's going to be falling here in New England. And this is a low bar, Mac Jones rookie bar.
Yeah.
I think this is the best backup quarterback I've seen in my 9 years covering the team.
Yeah. And again, it's an important role it's an important spot to have a trustworthy guy in. Like I looked this up after practice today. Top of your head, how many quarterbacks do you think played in all or started all 17 games last season?
So there's injuries. There's guys sitting in week 18
for whatever reason.
Like Herbert. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, like 5.
11 okay. Played in all 17, but still that's basically a third of the league. Yeah. And there are a small handful of them who sat in week 17 or week 18 rather, with the playoffs set and all that. But more than half of the teams in the NFL had to start a backup at some point during the season, including 8 of the 12 playoff teams last year did not have their starting quarterback start every game. So more likely than, the Patriots were fortunate in that regard last year, where Drake May played every game. Essentially, he played every game, played every meaningful snap. They didn't have to worry about that. Odds are there is a decent chance that Drake May will not start at least one game this year based on just the way things go in the NFL. And you need somebody that you can plug in there and have it not just like completely torpedo your team. And based on what we've seen so far, Tommy DeVito looks like somebody who can do that.
First of all, I apologize for ruining your guessing game with an a-hole guess that was way under, like completely.
I was surprised. I thought I was going to say like, okay, yeah, I'm probably like, I don't know, 18 or 20. But I don't know. It was.
I just feel like every other season we have the conversation about, oh my God, so many quarterbacks are hurt this year. And we're not wrong to have the conversation. We just have amnesia about this happened recently. And sometimes there are really bad stretches of missing all of these quarterbacks. And then games in November are just backups versus backups and people don't want to watch. But that's Thursday Night Football where everyone complains and watches anyway. Second of all, let me put it to you this way. Let's say the Giants call. They go, hey, Elliot, we kind of screwed this one up. We get it. We've seen the tweets. We've seen the clips from training camp. And we know we're not playing you this year in the preseason. So we're just going to have to do this now. We'll give you a 4th round pick for Tommy DeVito. What does Zack say?
I'll take the 4th round pick. But that's like, but it's the fact that you have to think about it for a second for a guy who was a 3rd string last year and all that. It sort of says where he is. Maybe if drop that to like a 5th, I probably wouldn't take it. I don't know. It's borderline.
I'm not doing it. College, baby. We're here. We're okay.
Tommy 2 Chainz now.
2 Chainz. Yeah, that's right. So it'll be just, I don't know. We'll figure it out. And I'm not going to be the person to do that. Great summer for him. This sounds, I'm sure to some people, absolutely ridiculous. But the thing in all seriousness that I like most about what he's done in this offense is there's a decisiveness. Yeah. So you would never guess the thing that he shared today about like, well, yeah, being a scout team guy, I was really just running other plays and other systems and simulating these guys in practice last year when I got here. Now I get to open my own playbook and really know what's going on because Josh Dobbs, of course, was the backup last year. You would think he's like Brian Hoyer's more Italian twin, the way he's kind of commanding and knowing where things are going. So
it's a confidence level.
Yeah. Sure. And look, and that's just also his game, right? Which I love to have in a backup where even the Giants in that dumpster fire of a season, people still remember fondly those games. Yeah, sure, they won. And some of them were like the worst football games you've ever seen, including the one they beat the Patriots in 2023. But the point is moxie, decisiveness, and the weapons around him. Like, I think he can help the Patriots tread water. And you make a very good point that at some point they probably will. So I'd rather have him on the roster than anybody else. And they haven't even played a preseason game. He's going to throw a pick in the first drive, and then we'll play this clip again and just dunk on Callahan. All right. Any other losers?
I think we cleared out my whole loser list. Okay. Unless you want to include Harold Landry, just because the fact that he's still not out there. I don't really know where to place him. And I don't know really where we reach the point where it starts to be a legitimate concern there.
So this dovetails nicely with the last guy that was on my winners list, and that was Elijah Ponder. Mm-hmm. And we'll start with Landry because today was my okay, I'm worried day. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I have said in previous episodes, like he needs to practice against the Colts or otherwise this is an issue. There's less than a month to go until the season opener. Because of the time he's had away, he will need a longer ramp up the longer he has been away. And right now we're past the midpoint of training camp. So yeah, Harold Landry, if you needed him in a pinch, maybe he could practice, and they're just slow playing this to death. Vrabel said today, always improving, which is to say nothing given all the details he gave us just last Friday about every other injured player on the roster. Mm-hmm. The point is, I can't reliably think that he will be available week 1. And if he's not available week 1, is he around week 2 or 3 or 4? And if the answer is no to any of those, who's playing instead? Elijah Ponder is that name right now. And he was invisible for 7 to 10 days at camp, like 6 to 7, 8 practices. Not the case today. He had a drawn holding penalty. He had a padded pass, and he had a would-be strip sack of Daniel Jones, which I thought this would be a no-no, or at least treat it like a sack, because it's the 1-minute drill and he's coming around the edge and boop, bots the ball out of his hand. You're not supposed to touch the quarterback. Not only did they just like restart the play at the same place now where he had been sacked, no one high-fived him. Like, it was both like a lose-lose for the Patriots defense. Anyway, this was a good sign from him. If he balls out in the preseason, that'll be great, but we all know these are more valuable. To see Elijah Ponder show up against a good offensive line when he has not lately was very encouraging, because they're just going to need him, period, this season, but especially if Harold Landry is going to miss games. And right now, that's the only reasonable assumption to make. Yeah,
totally agree. His pass breakup was also maybe the loudest pass breakup, like volume-wise, that I've seen all summer. It was like a batted pass at the line. It was just like, bam!
Yeah.
And yeah, overall, a strong day for him. He's if Harold Landry isn't back by week 1, which again, as you said, is becoming less and less likely by the day, you're going to see a whole lot of Elijah Ponder in this defense. He was a guy who had a role last year. I know the Patriots coaching staff likes him. He's done some good things for sure. But that's a relatively unproven guy who's probably going to be a starting edge rusher for you unless Landry can make a recovery here. So yeah, extremely important player for the Patriots.
I'm really glad you brought up the Ponder batted pass, because in documenting all these training camp stats and pumping out the whole report and filing it before we recorded, I forgot that reminded me immediately of any dad who has ever blocked their 10-year-old or younger son in the driveway because he just hardly had to reach his hand out to swat this down back into where I'm sure there's a dent now in the practice field outside of Gillette Stadium, because it was that effortless and that like just absolutely dominant as you can be, just kind of rejecting something.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I had to let my dog downstairs.
No, you're right. All right, so let us go on to the Celtics now. We've done 36 minutes of Patriots talk, and look, it's I think everyone has calmed down a little bit post-Jaylen Brown trade. I've had to talk about this. You and I have not talked about this, and as our Celtics expert at the paper, I just kind of wonder, like, not what's next in the sense of they're going to play basketball. Paul George is on the team, and all eyes are going to be on Tatum. And is there an MVP run? And they'll win 50 games maybe because they just do this every regular season. Like, what does this season hinge on now, aside from the obvious health and production of your 2 best players? Like, where can more inroads be made? And Mitchell Robinson's here, and that's cool, but his health is a question mark, yada, yada. Because I want to find something new and interesting other than looking at, the X and seeing how they're doing with their new partner. You know what I mean? Like, the Jaylen Brown part is going to be interesting, but that's not here. That's not playing basketball for the Boston Celtics. So what is next? What am I looking for that's not obvious but interesting?
Well, I think the kind of unfortunate part is I don't like barring. I think this season could be derailed if any of your 2 very injury-prone offseason pickups, or Tatum, who is playing in his first full season post-surgery, if they have any sort of significant injury issues, there is a chance that this season could be like completely torpedoed quickly. I don't expect that to happen. I think this team is going to win 50-ish games again, because as you said, this is just what they do. Really, regardless of the personnel that they have, this is an extremely good regular season team. Joe Mazzulla is an extremely good regular season coach. They still have a lot of talent on this roster, and you can concoct the situation where if everybody is healthy, maybe there's a better fit with Paul George as like the sidekick kind of guy to Tatum rather than the dual alphas with Tatum and Brown and all that. But the unfortunate thing is, I don't think we're really going to know anything about this team until the playoffs, because I think they're going to, again, do exactly what they've done in every one of the last 5 seasons, which is win 50 to 58 games, I don't think they're going to be the number 2 seed in the East this year, but I don't think they'll be a play-in team. I think they'll be like, if I had to pick today, I would say like 4 to 5 seed. They'll be like very much in the mix in what's going to be a very competitive and pretty open Eastern Conference, even when you do have those 2 kind of big star-studded teams at the top. But then we get to the playoffs and we'll see. Like this past year, they won 50 odd games. They were riding high. Everybody was picking them to go to the finals, and then everything just completely fell apart. And now the team looks significantly different, and you trade your longest tenured player. And it's like, which is, I mean, as somebody who is going to be covering this team for the next, 9 months, I think it's going to be important to not temper expectations, but like view things through the context of like, hey, this is what the team did last year during the regular season. If they start off, I don't know, if they're 30-10 and are like, oh, this team is great. Like, I don't know, long way of saying that. Like, I don't think we're going to know what this team is until April or May. Just like, because I think overall their infrastructure, their coaching, their talent, their player development, all of those things are good enough to be a competitive team with pretty much anybody on the court. Whether they can be an actual threat, an actual contender, we are really going to have no idea about that until next spring.
So are you just going to be wanting to come down here on Wednesday and Thursday, like as much as possible?
Well, I mean, it's going to be fascinating just from the sense that it's going to be different. I mean, it's like last season was fascinating because it was different, because Tatum wasn't there, because you had all these questions about guys in new roles. Basically, the entire team was a guy in a new role. And now it's going to be a similar situation. I mean, obviously Tatum is back in the role that he was in as that number 1 option, but what's he going to look like post surgery? I feel like people are kind of discounting that a little bit. I haven't heard it discussed as much as I think it should be, that like, he looked good down the stretch last season, but he never got back to like Tatum level Tatum. And you would assume that he's going to be much closer to that now after a full off season, and a very long off season at that. But you don't know how a guy's going to look after such a significant injury. You don't know if Paul George is going to be able to stay healthy. You don't know if Mitchell Robinson's going to be able to stay healthy. There's the chatter about Peyton Pritchard becoming the next Jalen Brunson now that he doesn't have Jaylen Brown in his offense. I think that's a little bit overblown. And then you still got all the young wings. I mean, Hugo Gonzalez is going to have a ton of pressure on him this year after the whole Giannis trade situation. There's a lot of really interesting storylines, and it's going to be a really interesting team, and seeing how Missoula plugs everything together. But it's just knowing what their floor is, again, as long as all their important players don't get hurt, it's just like, it's almost going to be kind of a wait and see approach to see what their ceiling actually is.
So I think the overarching point is spot on. And unfortunately, this is the good part about being Bruins bandwagon guy, is that all I really watch is the playoffs, aside from a couple games here and there, because I just can't imagine caring about being in Calgary on a Wednesday in late January, because those guys know they're going to Edmonton tomorrow and it's 1 out of 82. That is now very much, if never more so, true for the Celtics, who have already won a championship and have obviously had these early exits the last 2 years where you're just like, hurry up and wait till April. But let me answer my own question and say a couple things. Number one, the East is better, right? Like, this is not anymore showing up to Washington or Brooklyn, though this will be the case for Brooklyn. You're just like, dub. Like, you might say that, but Washington.
It's basically just Brooklyn.
Yeah. Like, and Milwaukee, you could throw in there too, but it's a much deeper East. So more competitive games means more interesting. Number two is, I'm curious to see how this new style, which will absolutely be, I think, a part of the formula, even if you're just, supercharging what you did with Kata last year, when obviously you weren't playing 5 out anymore, works with Mitchell Robinson, because clearly he's a piece that they saw as not only someone who killed them, but is something that could work in the playoffs. What are you going to do stylistically to be ready, where you can just kind of roll that identity over in a way that shooting all these threes has not worked in a small sample where variance hasn't killed them. The last thing I would say is the Tatum piece, because it struck me as you were talking that, like, yeah, last year was interesting. Tatum's not here. And like, I think a lot of fans initially was like, oh, well, they can't win the championship this year. Like, I'm going to watch, but I'm not as invested. And then it was more interesting because they were underdogs and then the number 1 seed and then finishes the 2 seed and Tatum's back. And oh my God, this might happen again. But we found out in that process what Jaylen Brown would look like as a number 1. And what that also really means is just by himself, right? Like, he was never going to be that here with Tatum. What does Tatum look like without Jaylen Brown? We don't know what that is like. And I think ultimately, not just because he's a better overall player, but I think more of a connector in terms of his passing and also his ability to play different positions defensively, as opposed to I just have the number 1 guy. We've all seen him play the 5 a ton. Maybe he won't with Robinson, but whatever. I'm curious to see what this Tatum looks like. The clear 1 with no one behind them being like, yeah, I'll take over, your turn, my turn. Like, Paul George is a good spot up shooter. And I think at this stage of his career knows to be deferential more than to step on Tatum's toes. And how does his game look different, if at all? Provided, like, you're right, he does come back, because we don't know if that's a given to the last Jason Tatum we saw pre-injury.
Totally. Yeah. And it's the clear, like, I think everyone has always kind of externally viewed Jason Tatum as the clear number 1, but this will be the first time that he is on a team where nobody else on the team thinks that they should be the number 1, basically. Yeah. And obviously Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were able to do a lot of really good things together. They won a ton of games. They won a championship.
How about that answer being shared by the both of them when asked about the other guy? Well, we won a championship together. Like, what are you going to miss about him? And it's the first thing Tatum said. It's the first thing Brown said, which is to note just the obvious, right? Nothing personal. And we know, obviously, he can't be in a good place given Jaylen's comments. And I don't really want to dig into all that, but just, I mean, you both had the version of, it's not you, it's me, basically,
Yeah.
In basketball terms?
It doesn't, based on their comments so far, and we haven't had any sort of actual press conference or anything with Tatum since the trade. Based on all their comments so far, it doesn't seem like either is especially broken up about no longer playing together anymore. I think they're both excited to be on their kind of their own tracks, especially just, I mean, I'm of the mind that I don't think that bringing back Jaylen after everything that went down last season would have been sustainable. I just think that it would have been too difficult to put him back into the 1A or 1B box that he had been in for most of his career. Obviously now he's going to be potentially like the 1C or 1D block box in Philly, depending on the night. So I don't know how he feels about that, but yeah, it's there wasn't the like outpouring of like love and adoration for those longtime teammates after the breakup here.
No, just some excellent, subtle, I say subtweets, but he was speaking. Anyway, the press conference was last week. I was just very glad after watching that, as he handled it with a good amount of class. Asked about the Celtics and then just talks about the city instead. That's fair. Obviously, clearly pissed at the organization. I'm just glad none of my exes got a whole press conference to talk about me or take questions about me after our breakup, because, man, that would have been a lot messier than Jaylen Brown handled it. Anyway, I've kept you way longer than I said I would. Appreciate you making the time. Obviously, I love having you down here as well as Doug does. You'll be back next week for Eagles joint practices, yes?
Yes, I'll be there Thursday night as well for Patriots-Colts preseason game.
Oh, nice. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a preseason game coming up Thursday. It's just so spoiled. Like, we're excited to see football. We're here for the football. Drake May not going to play, according to Mike Vrabel, who reserved the right to change his mind. I will note that. But it's just not going to be as insightful as what we saw here today.
Next week is going to be much, much, much more fun, I would say, and much more interesting from a football and a storyline perspective.
Yeah, one of my best friends in the world was here today, and he came to a practice 10 days ago, and is not a diehard Patriots fan, only a new Patriots fan, frankly. Had a freaking blast at the first one. I said, if you enjoyed this, you should come back for the joint practices against the Colts. And I would say anyone who thought about coming today, come to the joint practices versus the Eagles. Wednesday and Thursday, get here like 45 minutes to an hour early. Find your seat, get a little elevated above the field if you can. It will be standing room only, just Pro Bowlers, all pro players galore, and of course, Bad Blood, the AJ Brown stuff. It's gonna be better than any preseason football you watch. Okay.
I would be shocked if there is not something that at least rises to scuffle level during those practices. If not something, what was the one before we leave? What was the one the fight that spilled into the stands? Was that with the Panthers?
Panthers, yep.
That was a crazy one.
Oh yeah, and then we were reprimanded. You can't take video of practice or retweet any videos of practice. I'm like, okay.
It was like they're fighting in the stands. They're off the field.
I'm trying to find. We need to brush up on our synonyms because we got scuffle, we got skirmish. You could have regular clashes. Brouhaha, personal favorite.
I feel like there's a dividing line until you get to like brouhaha and Donnybrook and melee. Like those have to be like. There's a minimum number of players that need to be involved for it to qualify for one of those. But yeah, we gotta break the thesaurus out before we get down there next week.
So I have fracas, a fray, a scrum. The scrum is really just us bothering a player all very closely. So we'll put that one to the side during interviews. Donnybrook is here. It's so good. Contratemps, a broil, a punch out, a grapple. Oh boy,
I have not heard contratemps before.
You haven't heard this one either. How about an argy-bargy? This is an argle-bargle. This is chiefly British, according to Merriam-Webster.com.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, I'm rooting for all of the argle-bargles when I see you next. Hopefully not here in the Herald office, but hopefully on the field. Appreciate you, buddy, and we'll chat soon, all right?
Yes, sir.